What if there was a spiritual law that could correct problems in this world? And we know there's lots of problems in this world, but did you know that there actually is a law that will fix problems in this world? Have you heard of the phrase, as above, so below?
Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
So, welcome to Angelscapes. I'm your host, Nancy Smith, your guide to living a soul-powered life. You're invited to join my Facebook group, Soul Power Living, where we can continue discussions started in these podcasts, among other things. So join me in this episode for a discussion about an ancient metaphysical teaching that explains why something can go upside down in your life and how you can bring your life back into balance. And let's talk about the mental principle of as above, so below. Have you ever noticed that when you feel chaotic inside, your world seems to reflect that chaos? Or when you finally feel calm and clear, conversations shift, decisions get easier, and life feels less complicated. That's the ancient principle of as above, so below. And I'm going to summarize it or try to summarize it for you um, in a kind of a grounded way that you can make sense. This is the law of mentalism, and it is from the Kabbalion, which was written by or brought to life in 1908 by people called the Three Initiates, based on Hermetic principles. Hermetic principles are based on a fellow, whether he's real or mythological, no one could tell because it's so many thousands of years ago. Hermes Trismegistus. I've practiced this 1,000 times, and I look at that name and it always messes me up. Hermes Trismegistus is the Hermetic Principles. He's the author of the Hermetic Principles. I think it was a group of people, way ancient Greece, even before that, that studied how does the world work? What is the principles and the natural laws that this life that we're living in are based upon? In spiritualism, the religion is based upon following the natural laws. And these natural laws are found directly in this ancient text. So that's why I like to go back to the ancient text to talk about that. So to understand as above, so below, I'm going to give you the 7 basic principles that are within the Kabbalion. I'm not going to talk to you all about them, but just for a kind of a go-to moment. Mentalism is the first law. It's about the one mind, the source, the creator. The creator's mind is the source of all. And to me, mentalism talks about what I talk about, the Akashic field of energy. We'll come back to that later. 2, the second law is correspondence. That's the law we're going to talk about, as above, so below. The third law is the law of vibration. Everything moves. And you've heard me talk about vibration. Vibration likes to entrain itself to the highest vibration that's around it. And that was the third law. So the fourth law is polarity. Everything has dual aspects. So you have a little ball, and the law of nature is that one part will be here and one part will be here. They will take opposite corners, and that's part of our world. Rhythm, that's number 5. Everything flows in cycles. This is a beautiful law, and I hope to dedicate a whole episode to everything flows in cycles, the rhythm of life. And sixth law is cause and effect. Nothing happens by chance. And that cause and effect talks about our own inner responsibility of what we do, what we say, what we think. And then 7, the seventh law, is gender, masculine and feminine principles that exist within all things. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. These teachings are inspired by the Hermetic philosophy that I mentioned. The Kabbalion itself is a modern mystical text. And I've picked up a number of books that are written on the topic of Kabbalion, and I really recommend that you find some of those as well if you're interested in this spiritual path and what it's all about, because this is like the crux of a lot of it. So the short version of what happens in the higher realm is you have spirit, you have higher consciousness, you have universal laws, and they're reflected in the lower realms, which is earth, our body, our daily life, vice versa. And what's in the lower realms affect what's in the higher realms. So above, let's talk a little bit more about above, the spirit, the divine, infinite intelligence, love and light. And that's the mentalist first law of the one mind, the all, and universal intelligence is encompassed in that higher consciousness and cosmic order. They're all together in the above. And they all are relatable to each other. They have different planes or different levels of functioning, but they're all intermingled. The below is the earth, which is a manifestation of the above, by the way, is the earth, the physical world, the human body, all bodies, animals, plants, all things living and growing. And when I said the earth, it includes all of the elements, the chemical elements that make up the earth. So your human body, your personal life, and your inner emotional world. How you think about your world, thought precedes reality, and how you feel about your world. And the thought and the feelings are the tools for manifesting what's happening in your life. We're going to talk about that today. The idea is that the same patterns operate on all of the levels. The structure of a galaxy mirrors the structure of an atom. Take a look at that. Get on wherever you go to get your information and look at pictures of the galaxy, and then look at the pictures of the atoms and how they function in a microscopic level. It's fascinating. The way that the energy moves in the cosmos, out in the galactic, um, beyond the Milky Way even, is the way the energy moves in our body. They mimic each other. They have similar patterns, if not the same patterns. And the laws that govern creation on a universal level also govern your thoughts and choices. And your thoughts and choices reflect back to the universal laws. That's why be careful what you ask for. You'll get it because the universe is listening. So, what this principle of correspondence and as above, so below, what this principle actually means is that the law of correspondence suggests that patterns repeat across levels of reality. Your inner state influences your outer behavior, your outer environment reinforces your inner beliefs, and the systems that are around you mirror themselves, the systems that you build or the systems that are imposing themselves on you. This is not about blaming yourself for world events. This is about recognizing the coherence of life and the fragmentation that can happen within life, and it shows up everywhere, in your body, in your relationships, and in our culture, in shared cultures. Now we know there's many different cultures on this planet, and we haven't recognized quite humanity. Men, women, and children, and people haven't recognized the the full human culture on this planet. We're still fragmentized into small cultures around the planet. When we are internally divided, our relationships often become divided. When we can't make up our mind about something, when the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, when we really want something, but we do something else, it impacts all of our relationships to ourselves, our relationships to the higher power, our relationships to our family, our friends, if we have children, relationships to the earth itself. When we are internally grounded, our external life stabilizes. This is our external life that is connected to us personally, but also as our external life, the energy up close to us, stabilizes, it sends out a stabling energy out from ourselves. It's not something that you have to sit down and focus on and think about. It simply happens. It's a law of vibration is going on here. And that's what correspondence is, as above, so below. How this applies to you personally. So, as above, so below also means your inner world creates your outer world. And we will talk about that a lot in this episode. I've already mentioned it a couple of times. Your thoughts shape your experiences, and the state of your consciousness influences your reality. If there is chaos within, chaos tends to show up without, I mean, without, outside of yourself. If there's chaos within, it's going to show up on the outside of yourself without. If there is alignment within, life begins to reflect that alignment. There's a story that I've heard years ago about the teacher, the Bodhisattva, was taking his students out, or the Buddha was taking his students out to observe life, and he brought them to a river. And one, he's asked his students to describe that river, and one student said, "Oh my God, it's like so dangerous. It's like hell. It's like there's nothing safe about this river. I would never want to enter this river." And the second student said, "This is filthy. This is nothing but garbage flowing down, and garbage and disease in this river. And it is not something I ever want to enter because it will make me sick." And the third student looked at the river and said, "It is the most beautiful body of water I have ever seen. The flowers growing on the bank, the trees, and the fish in the water, and they just leap up in joy because they have enough to eat. And the nature around it is, I could spend the rest of my life here at this river." The river was the same river the whole time, but how they perceived the river changed based on what their inner filters were, their inner awareness, their inner consciousness, their inner understanding about how life works. So isn't that interesting? We're all doing that right now. Another layer, and this is important to talk about, it also means this law of correspondence and as above, so below also means the divine isn't somewhere far away. The same creative intelligence that moves the stars moves you. So we're sitting right in the middle of the all, the mental, law number one of the mental state is we are sitting in the center of God's heart, the center of the Creator's conscious awareness. You're not separated from the larger pattern. Think of a quilt that has patchwork quilt, and it's made from many different patterned fabrics, and it's stitched together. And sometimes it can be very beautiful, sometimes it can be very chaotic, but we each bring a pattern to the universe, to the Creator. And your soul is a micro expression of the macro universe of the one mind, our spirit, our soul, how we express ourselves. So in my work, when I guide people back to their soul, um, the principle teaches me and says to me, when a person restores harmony inside of themselves, their relationships, the purpose, the directions start to reorganize themselves on their outer world. So you want to work on inner alignment first. The inner alignment, outer coherence is what my goal is in my work with my clients, and that's the Hermetic wisdom in action. Yes, we're going to start to get a little practical with this. There's a lot of theory and philosophy in what I'm saying, but I want to talk to you about how it applies um, as you walk through your life. Um, as above, so below sounds mystical until you start to see it everywhere, and that's what I'm hoping at the end of this episode you'll start to see it. This law, this natural law in action around you. Um, the law of correspondence says there is harmony, agreement, and reflection between different planes of of existence. I'm going to very slowly unpack that for you. The mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual realms mirror each other and they relate to each other. Kind of goes with as above, so below. You could also say as within, so without. That's where I got confused. So as within yourself, so it is on the outside of yourself, is what I'm trying to say. And as the universe exists and operates, so your soul exists and operates. It's the same law, phrased differently. So you could say it lots of different ways. The three levels of correspondence may help you to organize this principle. The Hermetic philosophy describes the three primary planes within this exchange is the mental plane. We talked that a little bit on the first law. The mental plane is about your thoughts, your beliefs, and your perceptions. And if you use tarot decks, it's the suit of swords. The spiritual plane is about your consciousness, your essence, and the archetype that you're living with at the point. And it's from the willpower. It's in your solar plexus. It is a concept, but it's connected to your spirit and soul. And then there's the physical plane, which is your physical body, matter, the actions that you take that are physical, and events that you move through. The law says that these planes are not separate. So let's give you a couple of examples. The first example I want to give you is about personal life. On the mental plane, you could say, and we have all had a turn at this, I'm not worthy. I'm not ready. I'm not up for that. I'm not that. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy. So if that's going on the mental plane, what you perceive, what you think, on the physical plane, what could be going on is you tolerate relationships that confirm that belief that you are not worthy. Instead of relationships that lift you up, you're finding relationships that support your belief in your mental plane. That's how it works. And on the spiritual plane, while you're doing that dance, you become disconnected from your inherent value as a person, as you were created from your soul, from the creator. So guess what? You change the belief, you go to the mental plane and you change the belief to I'm not worthy to, let's say, I'm curious and I have a lot to learn. I don't know everything yet, and I want to know everything. You start to choose relationships differently, not relationships that will keep you stuck. You'll choose relationships. Maybe you'll choose a new teacher, or you'll start to friendly up with somebody who has an who has a lot to say that you really like, that you have shared values. And then from there, you'll have the support that you've created around you just by making these different choices to start to see that you are a valuable person. You are a good person. Hey, you're somebody I like to be with kind of person. Um, and that's how correspondence works on that personal level. Now, in a societal level, let's talk a little bit examples because right now a lot of people are living mentally and their hearts are in what's going on in the society. So, if the inner collective fear, and I want to define the inner collective of the group that you are in a culture with, that you all are agreeing to live together, and that one mind or that collective mind of that group of people, it's lots of baskets get emptied into that collective mind, and beliefs that maybe you didn't start with that belief, but now that you're in the society, you have that belief. So when that collective source for the culture is based in fear and lack and not being able to take care of yourself and needing protection, the outer world becomes authoritarian with its tendencies to control because we're perceiving through our fear we need someone to control and protect us and keep us safe. And that collective fear is an inner fragmentation because nobody's owning it's like an agreement. Nobody's owning their sovereignty. Nobody's owning their inherent soul gifts. And so the inner fragmentation will create outer polarization, and people will not For instance, one sample example of polarization is just people can't talk together. They have their ideas are so separate that there's no reconciliation. So enemies start, arguments start, distrust starts. Now you take that inner collective, and it's not based in fear. It's based in being the best person you can possibly be, through education, through good health care, through through opportunities to grow and learn. And that creates a cohesive inner thought form. And when inner awakening happens, the outer world reforms its movements and changes how it directs itself. The inner atmosphere of a culture expresses outwardly in the institutions that that culture creates to support the group. That's important for you guys to take home today and understand that. So the next example is in nature. And this is my favorite example. Um, in nature, we can find spirals. If you go out to the galaxies, look through the Hubble telescope, spirals are everywhere. And you look at the planet from a distance and you see a hurricane. It's a magnificent spiral, which I don't want to be in the middle of, but it's a spiral. Tornadoes are tiny, tight spirals. Um, and our DNA, if you look at your DNA, is a spiral, like a ribbon that spirals around. So you have the same pattern on different scales. The macrocosm is burying the microcosm, and that's the clearest place where you could see it. And you look at all of these different layers of nature, look at trees and compare them to webs, or look at some of those amazing vegetables before they get chopped up and put in the grocery store, how they work together, how a fern curls up tiny, and how a broccoli or a cauliflower all work together. One is a bunch of little things all together, and the other one is a spiral of lots of little lumps. It's fascinating to look at nature and learn how the patterns of the cosmos, the patterns of the universe actually work. So the examples in nature can be exhilarating, glorious, and beautiful, um, until you talk about the mosquitoes. And I really want to know where the mosquito in its tiny little self is being um, expressed in the macrocosm. If you figure it out, let me know. But some important clarifications. Again, I want to reiterate that the law of correspondence does not mean everything bad is your fault. This is about being curious. This is about learning and growing. When you come into everything is your fault, you're back into the negative thought form of I'm not worthy, I am bad, I can't create good. Um, and it does not mean that victims create harm. So we need to really in some of the new age thinking of the law of correspondence, as above, so below, we create our reality. People tend to get even harder on victims, people who are struggling, and they say, "Well, what did you create karmically to get you in this position?" We got to bring compassion and love into this pattern. If it works through compassion and love, reality. This is another thing that it does not mean. Reality is just positive thinking, and that's too simplistic. It doesn't give you the tools to work with when you think, I'm just going to think myself positively through this whole thing, and without really taking in all the levels. Patterns repeat across the levels. If something is chaotic in your external life, there's often a corresponding disorder somewhere in your internal system. If there's something chaotic going on in society, there's something inherently wrong in one of the levels of the system in the society, whether it's in their law, how they handle their laws, how they nurture their people, who gets all the wealth and who's working hard and is doesn't have enough to eat. Those are all fragmentations. So this is where we need to look at when there's this a chaotic, non-functioning thing. We have to look at all these different levels and see where is the corresponding disorder happening. So the question becomes, where is the originating level of this chaos? And that's where internal work is so, so important. We can't just make it go away through thoughtful thinking, through positive, wishful thinking. We need to do our work. So let's kind of take another tact or another way of let's how can we make this credible in your life? Um, let's translate this into language that makes sense psychologically. I'm not a psychologist, but I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a stab. When your nervous system is dysregulated, your tone changes. And if you're a woman over 50, you can totally talk about menopause. Your nervous system is dysregulated. When your endocrine system is off base, when your chemicals in your body, your tone changes, your posture changes, and your micro expressions in your body changes, and people respond to that. And when you carry emotionally unprocessed grief or resentment, it subtly shapes how you interpret situations. Um, this grief or this resentment or this repressed anger shapes your behavior, whether you want to or not. It shapes the outcome, no matter how hard you try to get a different outcome. If you're not kind of working with this unprocessed emotional big feeling stuff, it's going to have the same outcome similar outcomes often will happen. And that's not about mysticism. It's a relational neurobiology and systems theory that you could actually study and research. Your internal pattern participates in shaping your external experiences, just like those three students. The three students of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva, their internal processes, however they got there, one could see a scary river, one saw a filthy river, one saw the most beautiful thing he's ever seen in his life, all from what's been happening inside of them. And so, how this can become practical in your life when something in your life feels stuck, you could ask yourself, which level am I trying to fix? As I feel my stuckness, as I feel I can't go forward, which level do I need to look at? And so, but you won't know till you look at all the levels. Am I forcing behavior, which is physical, without addressing a belief, which is mental, without reconnecting to the meaning of me, who I am in my soul, which is spiritual? Alignment across the planes creates coherence. And this is what I like to work with in my life continuously because it happens all the time. We fragment and then we gotta get it back together. Here's where I learn what our operating system is, and this is what I do in my mentorships with my students. At what level are you? Is the piston misfiring kind of thing? The law of correspondence is really about unity of yourself on all of these different levels. And it says you are not separate from the cosmos. We're not separate from God. We are within God. You are a small scale expression of the same intelligence of the source that has created all things. The law that governs stars also governs seeds. It governs relationships. It governs nervous systems, and it governs soul awakening. And it's not that this God force energy is telling you what to do. As you learn to align and unify yourself with this flow of this beautiful energy, you come into a natural flow of existence that the seeds blossom, the relationships work in harmony to teach each other, the nervous system, you feel much better physically. And when those things are in place, your soul begins to wake up. You begin to seat your soul into yourself. You're not struggling to survive, and your soul inspires you. It takes you to a high level of creativity. This is not a poetic exaggeration. It's a pattern of continuity that exists all around us. Um, because someone reconnects, um, okay, let's say this a different way. When somebody reconnects to their essence, to on their spiritual plane, their beliefs naturally reorganize themselves because they're having a connection with source. a reciprocity, a relationship of give and take, and through intuition, through thought forms that include that source, include that higher power, that higher thinking. And your brain, since it's a computer and it's not the source of all intelligence and wisdom, begins to reorganize itself and shift to what is working. And your life begins to restructure itself on the physical plane. And that's correspondence in motion. Um, I want to, we're going to talk about this in 2 seconds, about the law of attraction and the law of correspondence and how they work together. So hang in there for just a minute. Um, Again, another example of the cosmic universe in you. Look at a spiral, spirals in the galaxy. Now you can look at the neurons in your brain and how they web out and how they relate to each other. Or you can look at a river delta and tree branches and how they mimic each other, and but they're moving energy. The delta's moving water. The tree is moving, also moving water, from below, from the roots up into the branches, which gives the leaves and the fruit. But the leaves and the fruit are returning that nourishment all the way down to the roots of the tree. So the roots support themselves, so the roots can anchor the tree, and it's a cycle. And this is also a beautiful example of correspondence with the universe, um, the macrocosm and the microcosm. So if somebody lives in a constant internal self criticism, we're back to an interstate example, they often attract or tolerate critical relationships. We mentioned that before. And they interpret neutral events as rejection. They feel unlucky in subtle ways, and the outer world reflects this inner tone. And I'm going to give you a really personal example. There's some things that I have been wanting to learn in my life, some things that I've wanted to embrace that I haven't done yet, that I've looked at. One of those things is rituals in connection to nature, and the other one is understanding the flow of grief. And because as I work as a medium, so many people come to me that are grieving, and sometimes I feel I want to have a deeper connection to what other people are understanding about the grief process. Spirit really guides me through a lot of my readings. Anyway, I've taken on 2 classes to expose myself to different ways of thinking, and I'm nervous in those classes, and I'm anxious in those classes. I have come in thinking, there's a lot I don't know and I want to learn, but everyone knows more than I do. And they're going to see me. This is an old pattern of mine. I won't fit in. I'll be rejected. I won't learn. And I'll walk away without having gotten any value from the classes. That's self-sabotage talk. And sometimes I sit in these classes and I get so anxious. Did I understand what they were saying? Can I finish this homework? Did I say the right thing? Oh, I should not told those grief people that I'm a medium, because now they're not going to want to talk to me because nobody believes in mediumship. I'm telling you that my thought process is setting me up for not only myself to reject what I'm learning, but my classmates to reject me. And that's why partly I wanted to talk about this today for my own benefit. And that outer world is going to reflect my inner tone if I don't get my inner tone worked through. Not because the universe is punishing me or whoever is working through this, not because perception, behavior, and energies um, are causing this to happen, but those perceptions, those behaviors and energies are creating feedback loops that are feeding into themselves like the snake eating its tail, and they're not allowing divine recognition. They're not allowing I'm asking the divine to teach me something new so that I could do something new in my life, but my feedback loop is fear and self-deprecation. And so I'm not letting the divine in for curiosity, for exploration, for creativity. So my inner chaos is causing or will cause some outer friction. So I need to focus on inner stability. What do I need to heal? What do I need to address? How do I need to find different languages to talk to myself as I'm learning something that's a little intimidating or maybe a lot intimidating? anytime you and that inner stability will bring outer coherence. I will build better relationships with my classmates. I will understand the work. I will be curious. I will be diving into things that I wasn't so sure about. And there's a good ending to this if I find inner stability. And I have to say that all of us, many of us who decide to walk a spiritual path, this inner chaos, this inner thought process, these levels will of how they're interacting will show up in our lives over and over and over again because our spiritual path through prayer, meditation, going thinking to a higher level, will ask our inner self to um, um, present itself so that we could see what needs to be developed. We could see where the conflict is, the root cause, so that we could heal it, so that we can bring it into stability, so we can love it. And that energy will now start to create a different feedback loop, and it will begin to pull in different resources so that we can manifest different outcomes. See what I'm saying? Um, the relationship example, for instance, if a person feels unworthy deep down, this is your inner world, this is below, they may unconsciously choose partners who reinforce that belief, which is they're now expressing that unworthiness in their outer world. And they're asking their partner to do that dance with them. When they heal that inner belief, their relationship pattern will shift. When the pattern shifts within you, the relationship pattern will shift. You change the inner template, the external mirror changes. So sometimes I hear people say, well, the relationship I grew and my partner didn't grow and we just didn't get along anymore because we had an agreement with each other that we were going to um, mirror each other's inner world. And somebody decides, I got to heal my inner world. I don't want to live with this inner world anymore. I don't want to live with this pain, this fear, this frustration. And that I don't want to keep hating on myself. And I don't want to be with a partner who's going to keep hating on me. So they change. And the partner now has a choice to grow and learn in their own way, in their own time, or stay the same. And a lot of times it's when relationships, they've lived their life. Their life is over now. And as above, so below, this is the law of correspondence. In action, it becomes powerful when you use it as a practice lens, a way of interpreting and adjusting your life and seeing that those patterns are embedded in all these different layers. So let's make it usable. Let's take a look at what you're agreeing to and what you agree to, how it's reflecting what you actually believe about yourself. So using this energy as a mirror, um, a reflection point would be when something keeps happening in your life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You might want to write this down. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me? Why does I have to? I just saved up some money and now the washing machine is broken and the car needs a new whatever's on it, brakes or something." Instead, why is this happening to me? Which puts you right into a victim powerless mode, which is maybe what you've been operating unbeknownst to you all along. You need ask yourself and see what comes forward. What is this reflecting in me? Not in a blaming way, not in a punitive way, but in a curious way, in a compassionate way, in a loving way. If conflict, I could talk. If conflict keeps showing up, where is your inner conflict? Are you saying yes when you mean no? Is there misalignment between your truth and your behavior? Outer repetitions often mirror inner misalignments. That question alone can change your life. So, this is a little homework you could take away from this episode. So, regulate the inner and watch the outer shift. You don't have to control everything on the outside. Calm your nervous system, clarify your intentions, clean up your inner dialogue. When the internal atmosphere changes, your response change, and when your responses change, outcomes change. You're in the driver's seat, and you don't even know it, but you're in the driver's seat. Um, I want to keep talking about this for a little bit, but want to take a little break. Again, Nancy of Angelscapes. You can find me on my website, angelscapes.net. You can reach out to me on Facebook through Nancy of Angelscapes. You can email me, Nancy at angelscapes.net, and reach out to me. I'm available. I do Akashic readings, one offs. I do mentorship programs. We can talk about what I do and how I can help you. Please reach out to me. I'm available. If you go on to angelscapes.net, you can look at booking a session and you can choose what session you want to work with me. If you want to work with me a little deeper, not sure how to do it, book a discovery session. If you want questions about what to do with your life, book a reading. If you want more mentorship work, read the mentorship pages. But I'm here. My mission and my love is to change the energetic dynamics in humanity, one person at a time, and to watch the awakening grow. So, energetic healing is something that I wanted to talk to you about. When we hear energetic healing, sometimes people think of it as an abstract or it's ungrounded or it's kind of woo woo. And here's what I mean by this: energy is simply the movement of emotion, attention, physiological activations in the body. I call um, emotions, energy and motion. They're trying to give you a message. So when the movement is blocked, whether through trauma, suppression, chronic stress, it shows up somewhere. And you can read more about this in Divine Love Affair, an Akashic Journey. Find it on Amazon. And chapter 8 and chapter 9 will talk to you about this and different exercises you could do in the body, in the behavior, in relationship. Healing is not me fixing you. If I'm going to do healing work with you, if you're going to see energy healer, you're not being fixed, you're being woken up. It's creating a space of coherence and safety, where so that you can um, allow your system to reorganize itself. It's about resonance, really. It feels like magic, though, but it's about resonance, and it is aligned with the law of vibration. Once a higher vibration is around you, the vibration within yourself wants to match that vibration. So it's about healing the root, not the reflection of the root. If you feel unappreciated everywhere you go, instead of chasing appreciation externally, ask, where do I withhold appreciation from myself? The world often mirrors the relationships you have with yourself. And that's kind of humiliating sometimes, but we're not here to blame or shame, but we're here to look at what's your operating system. Maybe you need to upgrade, change the inner relationship, and the outer dynamics will reorganize. If I said it once, I've said it many times in this episode. This is something I really want you to understand. This is not an instant fix. It's being consistent over a period of time. And within 6 months, within a year, within 3 years, you will be living a totally different life, and you'll be happy. That's where the happiness comes from. Um, create order in your physical life, um, may help you to create order in your internal life. So let's start supporting that internal change by cleaning up your desk, making your bed every morning, lighting a candle, and journaling, giving yourself quiet space to reflect and also bring in your higher guides, your angels, your guardian angels, or your higher source. Reflect on how you're being supported. From the universe, speaking aloud what you desire, taking the moment in the middle of a misunderstanding to be really clear within yourself about what you actually really want, or returning back to a relationship where it ended badly, the conversation ended badly, but you have come to understand what it is that you really want, and that was part of the fight, and say it out loud. It's not about forcing or manipulating the other person. It's about saying, this is truly what I want. This is truly what I'm feeling. Um, Physical rituals can train the psyche. Physical rituals, whatever they could be going for walks. They could be building beautiful altars, building something that makes you happy. Cooking can be a beautiful physical ritual that brings you back home. I'm feeding myself nutritious food. And you're listening to your body. Your body teaches your spirit. Your body says, hey, this is what it feels like to be me. And listen to that body. Your body also stores in those stuck emotions and those stuck traumas. And so create a relationship with your physical body and allow it to guide you and tell you not to hold you hostage because you have a hangnail, but to guide you in how to care for yourself. And grief or transition are huge in our lives, and sometimes we lose our way with these grief in traumatic situations, when we lose a relationship, when we lose our identity, when our dreams go away, our outer collapse often mirrors an inner shedding. I always call it a realignment or a soul appointment to say, hey, you're on a track, but it's not the track that's the best track for you. Instead of my life is falling apart and just saying that to yourself over and over again and reiterating it, it can become a deep layer of me is reorganizing itself so that I can step onto a, a transformative path. I got this. It takes courage, takes creativity, takes discipline to not fall into, oh, my life is falling apart, life is miserable, I'm devastated, and move it into, there's something deep that I am changing and reorganizing, and I'm going to come forward with a brand new pattern that serves me much better. Chaos above often signals transformation below. So we could put that to a societal, cultural thing. If our culture is blowing up in front of our faces and everyone's polarized, it, the natural inclination is not to stay that way, and the desire for something better will always come forward. But a new pattern, you need to have the desire and the inspiration to put a new pattern in place. And that new pattern, the collective unconsciousness that everybody's adding to, new things need to go into that bucket. So the baskets that are being emptied into the collective consciousness is now about compassion. It's about um, balancing the money streams, or let's fix those bridges so nobody falls off of them, or whatever it is. Um, the chaos is, I did an episode not that long ago about complaining and what is the message from your complaining? What is your soul trying to tell you through all your complaining? There's you're giving yourself a signal that something is reorganizing, or you need to take a look at it and reorganize it and allow it to reorganize. That framing alone can soften your suffering. It's not going to stop your suffering. It's not going to take the grief away, but we can reprioritize your perspective on how you treat yourself and how you think of yourself. You're an amazing being. You are a child of God. Let's get off the making yourself crazy and hurting yourself through your thoughts and thinking, and move towards having compassion for yourself so that you could change the pattern. um, in parenting is a beautiful example of leadership in parenting, leadership in the household. If a child is dysregulated, instead of trying to fix the child first through discipline, through, you always need to discipline a child and teach them, what's what in life. But instead of overriding or the hard parenting, check your own nervous system first. That child could be your barometer for what's going on inside of you or inside of the family dynamics and how the family is nurturing itself. So calm the above, your internal state your internal state as a leader, you're above. So calm it down. Come back into connecting to source, into all your resources, all your good stuff. And the below, which is the child and the environment, often stabilizes naturally. So before you send that kid to the room without supper, get a hold of yourself and go, what am I exuding? And what is this child trying to tell me? And once you have that all understood and balanced out, if the child goes into becoming regulated and stabilized, don't send him to his room without dinner. Have a discussion. Energy flows top to bottom in these systems, and the family system is a beautiful system to. This is kind of humbling too, for the parents to understand, when I see my child doing what my child's doing, where am I? And that needs to get fixed first. And then um, the teaching of the child will stick. The child will understand it, and the teaching will stick. I love um, daily practices to remind. I have to do daily practices to remind myself where is north, where are my feet, how am I talking to myself, what's my spiritual temperature, what's my physical temperature. It's about simple integration when you do these little daily practices. So each night, you can ask yourself. You choose the question, but one suggested question would be, "What did my outer world show me today about my inner world?" So you're making a list of what you accomplished, what didn't work, what did work. What did that outer world tell me about my inner world? Where am I dysregulated? Or maybe I'm perfect, but we're usually not. And each morning, as you start your day, setting the intention, what inner quality do I want reflected outward today? Inner quality of patience. I want to reflect that patience because there is a process that I need to do in my parenting world or in my job. And I want it done yesterday, and that's not helping the process. So I want to find the patience for the process, for the rhythm, and I want to reflect that outer states, and maybe that will help make the progress that I've been looking for. And that's it. You begin living consciously instead of living reactively. Um, I've been talking for a little while, and I have a lot more on this to say. I think this could be a whole weekend workshop, and maybe it will be. But there are so many ways that we can reg- listen to ourselves and regulate ourselves on so many levels. Um, Polarization and inner fragmentation is a big deal. It's a thing across many democracies now. There's cultural divisions, echo chambers, identity wars, us versus them thinking. Those are all those are all outer reflections of an inner problem. And we want to solve the outer problem with an outer solution. We need to go inward and find out what's dysregulated. On a personal level, many individuals are disconnected from meaning in life. They're living split lives, public self lives versus private self lives. The social media is really helping us to split our lives up. Confused about our own identity. A lot of us are confused about our own identity. This is why I do these podcasts, afraid of losing belonging into a community. Could be reflected by afraid of hoarding. I'm afraid of getting rid of anything. Collective outer polarizations often mirrors these inner fragmentations. And when an individual feels split inside, the society reflects the splitting. Social media and the inflated ego. And when I talk about the inflated ego, 'cause we hear about narcissists all the time, and he is a narcissist, she's a narcissist, and their narcissistic behavior excuses where you are because you're in pain and you're a victim. That has got to stop. Um, we live in the time, and social media is feeding this, of performance outrage. I have to be the best. Or I didn't like what she said, and I'm going to give her no likes. Or how many likes did I get? Performance, um, performance validation, I guess. Um, and it can give us permission to deeply judge something that maybe we need to learn from. Personal branding, this is who I am. It's an obsession. This is who I am. This is always who I am. This is what I'm going to be. This is always what I could say. I'm the guy with the goats with the sweaters. I love those goats with the sweaters. And the algorithms are funny because you stop and you watch something, and then the social media says, oh, she likes that. Get her more of that. So if I only like goats with sweaters, then the algorithm says, only give her goats and sweaters. I will get a out of balanced idea of what life is because everything is goats and sweaters. Then I get a little how to crochet a sweater, and then I get a little the best caring for a goat, or I get a little something that, but it's not feeding me. It's just giving me a good laugh. Um, Another inner level. And so that's the out of balance inner level. We're not seeing life and all that it has to offer us. And the other, craving affirmations, building a life around ourselves that always tells us yes and that we're okay, instead of an interaction give and take in relationships that will challenge us to grow and learn. Those relationships, sometimes I see people call them, those are the narcissists. No, they're not. They're your partner that's saying, "Hey, can you learn something here?" And then, afraid of being invisible on the inner level is a fragmentation that can cause that personal branding obsession, or the algorithm-driven validations. We're afraid of not being seen. And, so what's broken is we don't see each other for who we really are. We don't see how we're interacting with people. We don't see the impact that we're having on other people. So this is how social media and the inflated ego, and inflated ego is, I wanna say it a different way. It's not about blowing yourself up to be more important than anybody else. It's about blowing up your shadow self, or blowing up your fears to be more important than anything else in your life. And this is, not helpful for your life and anybody else's. So what do you wanna learn about yourself? Where do you wanna grow? The outer world amplifies the inner hunger that's within ourselves, and the digital landscape mirrors a psychic that hasn't yet integrated its shadow. And I tell you what, we could talk about shadow for 3 hours, so we're not gonna talk about it so much now. But these broken, fragmentations that we're talking about, that's our shadow right there. Um, so I feel that, this I could go on, and I want to design another, episode to go a little bit further into different ways that the energy healing of resonance and understanding those levels that need healing can help you. But right now, what I want you to do is spend some time observing yourself, and some time observing the patterns around you in nature, the patterns around you in your struggles in relationships, the patterns. What pattern are you living? How many patterns do you have on that crazy quilt of yours? And which pattern is coming forward today? Which pattern was there yesterday? So in closing, the law of correspondence is not about manufacturing luxury cars. It's not about feeding the outer world. It's about coherence within yourself. And it's about coherence within your culture. It's about coherence within your neighborhood. It's about coherence in what you choose to do. And it's many layers within yourself. Three, basically, not many, many, three or four layers within yourself that need to align with each other. And when your inner life is integrated, your outer life reorganizes itself. When you reconnect to your essence, it's all about the essence, guys. Your decisions sharpen, your relationships become clarified. You, where you're not controlling your relationships, but when you're understanding and you're aligned with yourself, you see your relationships quite clearly. Your energy stabilizes as within, so without, meaning without your with outer world. And it's not mystical, it's practical. And that's alignment. And that is the gift that this episode is bringing to you, to understand this law, as above, so below, and how you can use this energetic law to turn your upside down life right side up. So remember to like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode, and give me some love. Share it with your friends so that I can keep doing this work. And the more people that hear it, the better off. I'll be on YouTube. I'm on the podcast channel, and once a week I'm live on Facebook. And thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening, and give me some feedback, guys. Love you all. Take good care.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.